and we can go from there. So welcome. We have Cliff Hugh here. He's from San Diego, Southern California region. He's the Pacific Division RC View guru. So we just invite him to take us on a journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirsten. It's been a journey, certainly has been a journey over the years. RC View, I don't know how many of you had used RC View either on deployment during a DR or steady state, but it's been around since I remember I was teaching I was teaching RC View as a class back in starting in 2015. I've been deployed mostly as a kind of a mapping planning specialist over the years, and have done rotations through Florida. There are hurricanes there, and also through NHQ when we had back at headquarters when we had the 3 hurricanes. So I've kind of been down at the field level, but I've also worked at the headquarters levels. So I don't know how many of you get to use RC View on a everyday basis. So today I'm going to kind of give a presentation of the basics of RC View. I'm going to show you, so a lot of you may not even have logged on to RC View, or you might have done it once. So we're going to kind of go over that. Then I'm going to talk about how RC View is used during steady state and how it's used during an actual DR. And I've got about an hour, so I'm going to take about 45 minutes to kind of go through the presentation. If you have questions in between, that's okay. As long as if they're short, then I'll answer them. If not, then I'm going to leave 15 minutes at the end of this, and we can answer more in-depth questions. And so that's how this presentation is going to run. Again, I'm going to kind of talk about RC View in general, what it is not, the who, what, where, and when of RC View is what you'll be seeing. I'll give a kind of a, if I have time, a quick demo of it, and then we'll kind of give you a little hint there's a second course that I'll be teaching later in the month, which is titled RC View for Decision Support. And that's kind of an important concept. Kirsten, you got your hand raised. Did you want to jump in and give us a point? Oh, okay, there it goes. So, and there's another class that I'll be teaching later in the month, talking about how RC View is used for decision making. In the past, maps have, colorful maps. I started out with the Thomas Brothers paper maps way back in the day, and kind of progressed over time through Google Maps, Google Earth, and so forth, until finally we have what we call RC View, which is actually ArcGIS Online, and I'll be talking to that in depth. With that, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to turn my video off, save some bandwidth, and I'll begin to share my screen. If I could remember everybody to please put yourselves on mute. If you have a question, just raise your hand or raise the question in your chat box. Kirsten will be monitoring the chat.
Cliff, I'm going to mute everyone again, but you'll have to unmute yourself. So just going to do that to clean this up real quick.
Okay. All right, Kirsten, do you see the presentation, first page?
Yes, I see
it. Of course,
it.
you can hear me.
It's not blown up big. It's just the page.
Okay.
I see it.
Thank you. I'm in the slideshow right now. There you go. Okay. So, welcome. This is a RC View, and it's specifically designed for supervisors and managers, and that's how we've been teaching this over the past month or so. So, what are the learning objectives? Understanding the why, the what, the where, when, and who of RC View. You're going to learn how to log in. Very basic, but that's an important ingredient. I've taught the class. It originally is to really become a map creator in the past. It's taken had been 2 full day classes, almost 300 slides was what I taught over a 2-day period. And that was really nuts and bolts. So we're not going to do that. I'm just going to basically show you what it is, what it does, how to get to it, and who might use it. I'm going to try to give you a kind of a basic understanding how to navigate to the information that you need, both in steady state and also in DR. Some of you have on a DR been exposed to a DRO's director's brief, and I'm going to kind of go through how to find that brief for a DRO and how to understand the content, what's in there. And I'm going to discuss where to get further RCView training and then give you a sneak preview of another class called RCView for decision making. So why RCView? Like I said, RCView is more than just a nice way of getting at some viewing pretty maps. Really want the objective of Binational of why they've implemented and spent so much time and money on RCView was to support decision making. So what does RCView do? How can it support decision making? Well, for one thing, it can bring in external information, such as weather, National Weather Service. We can bring in state, county agencies like CAL FIRE or national, such as U.S. Forest Service information, FEMA damage assessment, also census demographics from the various Census Bureau data sources, all including populations of various types, and also bringing in things like the Social Vulnerability Index, the SVI. And when you overlay some of this, you get some really good, interesting demographic statistics of who would be most impacted. So it will help decision making both not during a DR, but hopefully you will use it prior to DR in your planning process. And then, of course, after it's done in recovery, will also help in your recovery planning as well. In fact, it helps in all phases, all sections of the response and planning. Also brings in internal American Red Cross information, damage assessments via RC Collect. I don't know how many of you have seen RC Collect, but it is a smartphone application on both the iPhone and also Android. And that's how the field goes out and collects damage assessment information. Basically replaces the street sheets. But when street sheets, you would bring those sheets back, they would be scanned in. And then the old days, you would make a modem call and update a central database. Now, using RC Collect, you make your assessment, and if you have internet connectivity, either through Wi-Fi or through 3G, 4G, it becomes an instantaneous collection point in RCView. Of course, a lot of you are working or have taken classes in the new National Shelter Support System, NSS. That information, of course, now is being integrated with everything else. Of course, our old friend, the 5266. So on a nightly basis during a DR, the 5266s are uploaded to the DOCC in national headquarters. That information is put into a database. And from that, we get a number of analytics that are presented. So along with spatial data, we can bring in the analytical data as well. And that's, I'll talk more about forming a common operating picture. Information from Volunteer Connections, from DOORS, is brought in so we can get information about staffing. Who's coming in, who's on site, and and we'll show you how looking at the gap presentations, how are the ratios correct, and we'll talk about that. And of course, just basic information on DSARS about the response itself. Now, all this information, the external and internal, is merged together into something called a common operating picture. And if you've taken the ConOps 3.0 class, they do talk about common operating picture, and that's just kind of it's a method of getting all the information in a common place to the right person at the right people at the right time. So there's trying to get minimize the time lag of information from supplier, the source of the information, to the actual users. We can conduct things like spatial analysis. So we can take a look at flooding maps, get flood predictions from NOAA, or I'm so sorry, National Weather Service and USGS of possible flooding in an area, not just now, but say within 20 or 48 hours. You get that flood, get flood gauge information. We can then do estimates of how far the spread might be. And then with that, we can look at the demographics. How many people are affected by this possible flooding in 24 hours from now, if they do a flood prediction, or 48 hours from now. What's happening downstream? So you can look at some downstream planning. Displays numerical analytics, so things like head counts over time. You can see, looking at the trends, is our populations within our shelters rising, or is it decreasing? How are we doing with meals, our service delivery of meals, and of DES? Are we following? Is it at the right time? Is our population dropping off in our shelters, but at the same time they're going back to their homes? So you would expect increase in our DES bulk distribution activities, and those are the type of numerical analytics you would be looking at. Trends as long as with absolute numbers. All this provides situational awareness. It's kind of a general term, but it fits in with the common operating picture. What's happening right now? And as you look in the ConOps, getting situation awareness, understanding the status quo, what's happening right now, is the first step in rational decision making. That's why I kind of bring you back to this point, rational. So what I mean by rational decision making, as opposed to reactionary, is that you have time through the common operating picture. It gives the decision makers more time to make a decision, rather than I get the information at the last minute, I got to make a quick decision. If we can push, if you say the information, good quality information, to the left of time, which means I can get that critical information to the decision makings earlier, that allows the decision maker to go through the steps of rational decision making, so they can understand the situation. They can come up with alternate plans. Do I open a shelter, or do I not open up a shelter? What is the best optimal rational decision? So again, the concept is provide good information, but push it to the left as much as you can to allow good rational decision making. Give them time to make a good decision rather than a bad decision quickly. So I just talked to you about why. So let's talk about the what. So this is kind of the nuts and bolts of RCView. It is a web-based hosted system, and it is developed and supported by Esri Corporation. Esri has been in the business for almost 40 plus, maybe more, years. It stands for Environmental Science Research Institute. Well, that has gone by the wayside. Esri is kind of it is the granddaddy and is the premier supplier of GIS information systems, which is this GIS. Now, the Esri Corporation They're not a one-trick pony. They've actually have helped. They develop with, of course, a lot of Red Cross requirements. Dat Dispatch that some of you are using. They've also developed the, I think, or maybe has subcontracted out under the overall Esri umbrella, NSS. And they've also developed something called a partner hub. And a partner hub is a means in which external partners, like Walmart, like Target, or FEMA, can exchange information with the Red Cross. So it's kind of a neutral ground where they can provide us data and we can provide them data. That's what the partner hub is. The RCView GIS structure, it consists of layers. For example, what are examples of layers? Well, a layer could be a fire perimeters provided by CAL FIRE, weather, information. Where's the hurricane? What's the path of the hurricane? What is the predicted rainfall over the next 24, 48, 50, hours? And that comes from National Weather Service. Where are shelters? And that can be provided, of course, through NSS. Trailers through logistics. Where are the existing trailer locations? And that also includes other assets such as containers. Work sites. So work sites, of course, they overlap with shelters, but it could also be warehouses. It could be distribution points for bulk distribution. It could be field kitchens. It could be a multitude of things. Those are called layers. Damage assessment. Again, I've talked about RC Collect. So information can come from the field that way, or it could come also from external sources such as FEMA or county resources doing damage assessment. Those can also be brought into RCView. Now, the layers, they're there. They're kind of the foundation of information. They are accumulated into something called a web map. So think of Google Maps or what's in your car, Apple Maps. There's a base map layer, which consists of the streets or homes and what you use to when you're navigating on a phone. But if you bring in such things as the fire perimeters, the weathers, the shelter placements, that constitutes a web map. And it consists of various layers. You can have a web map, kind of a kitchen sink of everything, or what most people do is break it down to a sheltering web map or a logistical web map. So more topical, or DR XXX. You can have a web map specifically for a DR in which you would have, say, the laydown or forced laydown areas specifically for that response. The next level up is called a web app. Now, web app is sort of discussed here. It provides kind of a user-friendly, pretty front end to the web maps, kind of encapsulates it in a more attractive and appealing way, provides some other tools, and it actually does a few more things, which includes integrating the Power BI dashboards, and we'll discuss that later in the DRO director's brief, but this is where the analytics truly come in. This is where we collect the 5266s and other information from volunteer connections and so forth are uploaded to the DOC, at headquarters, the Disaster Operations Center, Coordination Center, the DOC, put into a database, and from that Power BI graphics are produced, and but they can also be displayed at the same time as the maps, and so that's why there's that link to the published links. All right. At this point, do you see any questions, Kirsten? Okay.
No questions at this time.
All right. We'll continue then with the where, the when, and the who. So the where is, as long as you have internet connection, where can I access it? As long as you have internet connection, it can be from a PC, laptop or desktop, a tablet. It could be running Windows or Mac operating system, which is what I do. A tablet or a smartphone, both running the Apple iOS or the Android. All of this is accessible as long as you have a compatible web browser, which most of the time is a Chrome, is what it seems to like the best. The WEN is available 24/7. Data is online and can be updated almost instantaneously. A good example of that is the RC Collect information. So in the field, as soon as you submit your damage assessment, it will be instantaneously given, of course, you have good internet connectivity, which is the where, it will be updated and seen in a map which has that damage assessment layer. Other information is updated on a nightly basis, daily basis, which is like the 5266. So part of it is understanding when you look at data within RCView is the update frequency. How quickly, how often is it refreshed? So you have to know, some data is instantaneous, other data is on a 24-hour basis, and that things like damage assessment could be more than 48 hours. It could be a few days, but things like actual weather forecasts and things like that, or weather station information could be instantaneous. And the WHO. Anybody who can log into volunteer connections can access and create layers, maps, and apps, even update layer data. So you have the capability right now, being that you all can log into volunteer connections, can actually create layers yourselves or access layers that someone else has developed. Similarly, you can create maps that you have created that you can create, or access other maps that other people have created in apps as well. How do I log in? So here's kind of the nuts and bolts of this. And I guess what I should do, Kirsten, is to upload this PowerPoint presentation after we're done to this event, so people can reference it later. Okay.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay. So how do I log in? First thing you do is you log in a Google Chrome web browser. You're going to type in very simply rcview.redcross.org. That's all you need to do. Type in your username that you would, the same volunteer connection username is what you should use for the RCView username. Same password that you use as well. Put that in. Now, first thing that you will see as a user are a set of tiles. These are called tiles. It may be hard to see, but there's one tile called DAT. And so if you're on the DAT team, you will probably see this tile. Everybody will see this map portal tile. And there are some other tiles too. One is incident and DRO map, which I will kind of refer to a little bit later, but you'll find in RCView there's more than one way to get at this information. But what I'll discuss here is that this incident and DRO map actually leads you into something called the Incident Operations Summary, which is if you want a big global view of all the DRs happening within the United States, and it's all over the United States, and Puerto Rico and the Marianas and American Samoa. It's all here. So let me get back to this. Most of you will see the map portal, and that's kind of your main entry point. If you click on this map portal tile, you'll get this. This is called a gallery. You'll see a region gallery in which we're trying to collect any content, layers or maps developed for the region. You will find that gallery. The DRO, so any active DRO of level 3 and above, there should be a director's brief created for it. In this case, we show an example of DR 330. There's also one down here, DR254 and so forth. These are so it would be, I think they're probably all completed now, but if someone said, hey, I need to take a look at the most current DRs, or if I DR in my region, if I know what the DR number, I would look it up. I would go to this gallery and then look for the DR. In this case, I'm going to, as people just getting used to RCView, I would suggest you go to pick on this training tile right here. Now, when you choose one of these, like the training tile, if you click on this, you'll get to the to a web app, the training web app, which I encourage all of you to try out. You won't break it. It's there for you to play with. So remember this. Go to Map Portal, DRO Gallery, go to the training, and look into here. Now I'll discuss in further detail what all of these tabs are and what's the content. Okay. As an alternative, I spoke of what's in this National Operations Summary, the NOS. You get kind of a very broad view. Another thing you can do to quickly get to something that you're looking for is a big search bar. You click on this, type in a few keywords, say it might be DR space 469-20. You type that in and you'll go, and if there's a DR that brief that's been created for it, you'll see it. Or some other keyword that you're familiar with, you just type that in and it does a search for it, and hopefully you'll find it that way. Okay, let's move on to from navigation. We're going to talk about what are some of the briefs that are out there. So what is the Regional Operations Summary brief, the web app? And this is a web app that's being constructed for every region within the Pacific Division. In fact, it is being constructed for every region in all of United States. For every region, there should be one called a Regional Operations Summary, ROS. And this is to be used every day. So there's a situation awareness map is the first thing that typically will come up. Now, I just did a screenshot of the Southern California one, since, of course, COVID is big on our minds right now. It is one of the tabs. If you click on this tab, you'll get information specific to the region. We'll talk about if I want to get weather information, this is where you would click on. You would see information about the forecast for 7 days in Southern California. And we have one of these forecasts for each of the 4 chapters we have within Southern California. Remember I talked about the common operating picture. Well, this is it right here in map form. In this case, I'm displaying the COVID temporary evacuation points along with, these are the colors here. Also the location of the trailers. So in case these, these temporary evacuation points may need, supplies, where are the closest trailers? Other tools, population and household counts. This is where the demographics comes in. We have an ability to polygon or circle an area of interest where there might have been a fire, and get an idea of head count through demographics, as I was telling you about. We also can bring in DAT dispatch information and so forth. There's a little bit more of that population tool over here. So within San Diego County, we have the safety grid. I know not everybody has this, but here in San Diego, we have a safety grid that's operated by the San Diego Office of Emergency Services. And this is a common grid with numbers that are used to reference by all first responders. We're lucky here in that when there's an evacuation area, we see that and they highlight a grid, and because we know where that exactly what that is. Since we all have a common safety grid, we all know what we're talking about. Our government liaisons can talk to the folks in the county OES, EOC, and say, we're talking about this area here that's being evacuated. We can use the population tool to polygon this area to get head counts. So we can kind of get an idea of what's the impacted or affected area. On the other side, when we become when we go operational, there is something called a director's brief. What is that? And some of you who are familiar with the sync calls have seen this. It's briefed out. It's kind of the common briefing that's made by the job director to the NHQ. And look at the format, very much the same as the regional very much the same as the one that's used on a everyday basis for steady state. This is what's used for level 3 and higher. You notice it's got tabs, almost the same kind of layout. Here's the situation awareness map. In this case, this is a screenshot from the training web app, and this is a projected flood area with some river gauge information. If you click on that, pop-up comes, and damage assessment, shelter analytics, and staffing analytics, feeding analytics. Here's an example. If you click on any of these, you'll get, or actually this operations dashboard, you'll get something like this. This comes from Power BI, but this is a screenshot which shows current sheltering head counts over time, what is the current population, how many shelters are open, and so forth. So job directors typically are looking at, yes, the absolute numbers. Have we reached the peak? I know it's very topical right now about curves and predictions, and have we reached the peak or not? Is the curve flattening? So same idea. Is the trend line going? Is it going in the right direction? Are the head counts going down? And so it's the same idea. Same idea. Feeding over here. How many meals? Totals, and also its graph over time, and also bulk distribution over here. So you would notice that if you're doing an analysis, as you expect head count goes down, feeding, you would think go down, but in this case it's staying steady. Well, that's probably because there's remote feeding being done. So we're still delivering meals at a constant rate for the folks who have returned home. DES, bulk distribution, as people go back home, it's now spiking because we're in the recovery mode. So all this is to be expected. If you're looking at the staffing, this kind of gives you an idea. This is a donut, gives you an idea of the percentages of the different gaps. So at this point in time, since we're over here, we're in recovery, you expect a lot of the higher percentage of gaps with the recovery, less in the sheltering, but more in the support functions of caseworkers, IDC, logistics, of course, because they're doing remote feeding and bulk distribution. So a lot of these analytics, you're looking at, do these make sense? Are the trend lines going in the right direction? And in fact, do these other things now make sense? Do I have the right quantity, the right mix of gaps for this part of the phase? All right. Now to the demo. Before I do that, are there any questions?
Yes, I have about 3 questions right now.
Okay.
The first one is very simple. RC view, I presume that means Red Cross view?
Yes. It
Okay.
it was called visual. I forget it now. It was very, they force fit an acronym out of it, so everybody's forgotten it, including myself, what RCView means now. So just RCView,
Okay. And I'm curious about the damage assessments. If you're in a place where all the technical connections are down, do you have any satellite connections to load data from
And
RC Collect?
With RC Collect, with that specific application, it stores it on your smartphone. And then when you get back, and it stores the location too, of where you did the damage assessment. So it has the street or the lat long, what we call it, the actual location. It's stored. It knows that it has no internet connection. It saves it. And then when you get to it then realizes when it sees internet, it sends it automatically.
I see. So there are physical limitations depending on the amount of damage in the area to getting it back in a timely.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need, as I said, the where is you need internet connection. You're kind of dead in the water without it. But I mean, you can still do your business. I mean, you can still go out and do the damage assessment. Just that it won't be instantaneously uploaded in RC View. You'll have to wait until you get to someplace where there's a hotspot.
And final question for the moment, how do you, if everybody has access to these maps and not everybody has geography or mapping training, how do you ensure that data doesn't become corrupted in the different layers?
Well, you have owners of the data and you have users of the data. In general, I'm saying this in general, most of the data is viewable by anybody within the Red Cross. Now, there's controls over and that no one, it's read-only.
Awesome.
It's read-only, okay?
Okay.
Now, there are certain conditions because of PII, you can limit the access. You say, it could be a government liaison. They may want to limit access. Maybe some of the information is not quite, it's still being baked. And sometimes you don't want to send out present half-baked information. So you may want to keep it semi-private till it looks good, then you might open it up. Now, the editing of it is you can control that as well. Then only basically the creator or the owner of that content is the only one who can make changes to it. Though there are ways that a team of people can make a change as well and save it. So, but it's controlled. It's controlled.
Oh, okay. I had the impression that it was a free-for-all, which had me.
Well, it's a free-for-all as far as read-only.
Okay.
And you're not going to break it. I mean, it's there to play with. So go to that training web app and play with it.
Sure.
But you're not going to hurt anything. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So I'm going to continue with the demo. So, as I said, to get to it's redcross.org, rcviewredcross.org. I'll see a login like this. I'm going to type in, actually, since everything I've got is already, oops, don't want that. Type in my Red Cross email, because that's what I use now for my volunteer connections, my same volunteer connections password. Hit sign in. Remember what I told you about here's the map portal, here's the incident and DRO map, and my maps are, here's that DAT response tile. Now I see a bunch of them because I'm responsible for the Pacific Division. But let me just kind of go to the following the example that I had in that slide. I'm going to click on Map Portal. And remember, next thing I should see is this map gallery. And in here is a little announcement page that kind of tells you the latest and greatest of what's happening, any outages and so forth. But if you remember in that slide, I can go to, if I want to take a look at a specific DRO or see what's out there, and kind of get, and this is all accessible by all of you. And this is what's kind of happening right now. There are sometimes you click on something, you may not get the access because either the information is too old and it's taken off and there's some missing layers. But if you know of an ongoing DR right now, you can click on it and you get information about it. Now, let me follow that PowerPoint. Remember, we went from gallery, and here's that training gallery right here. So we're going to go here. And this is the DRO 009 19 Director's Brief. Again, I'm telling you, don't worry about corrupting it. You're not going to corrupt it. Just, it's read-only. Now it's loading the data. Now the only reason you see an edit button up here is because I have editing rights, being one of the folks who does training in RCView. So I teach really a hands-on class where I really put forth scenarios and in this class. So I like to throw in which I like to put my own injects in sometimes. So I have editing rights. So here's the situation awareness map. If you wait long enough, I think some of the this will back. There we go. I'll backfill more information. Let me kind of go with some of the real estate. So this is the legend up here. Click on that. And this tells me what all these little symbols mean. So in this case, these are the observed river stages and also the flooding forecast. That's what I was telling you about. They're color-coded. Now I can zoom in through these navigation buttons up here. And in fact, it tells me what some of these icons are. And these are service delivery sites. These are the work sites. There's a kitchen, a bulk distribution site here, I'm sorry, and a service delivery. I don't know what that is as far as what it's specifically doing. Okay, that's the legend. Now, I can click on this, what looks like, it's called the hamburger for some reason, but I can turn off layers. It's not going away, I think. Oh, so for example, I can put in the current, these are the road closures and so forth. I don't think there are any right now. This is real time. I can put in the current traffic and so forth. I can go to the dashboard. Right now it's going to that Power BI published link. And it's populating that. I can do some filtering here. So I can choose just ARC or independent ones. This is all of them right now combined. So if I go to some of the other ones, I can, like sheltering analytics. This is just a deeper slice and dice of the information that's available. You can see the head counts over time. You can see by the specific shelter what the status is and so forth. and I can scroll over this like this and get a little bit more point by point, day by day information. Okay, I'm going to leave this point, and let me check the time. What I'm going to do is finish up my presentation and then open the floor for questions. So I'm going to leave that open. Going to decrease this. Going to open up the PowerPoint again. Go into presentation mode, excuse me. This out of the way. So, how do I get more training? There are 2 EDGE classes. We've had them out there for about a year now. The first class you should try out is called the RCView Mapping, Getting to Know RCView. So instead of all the things that I just kind of demoed to you in the last 45 minutes, it is there, and it tells you exactly how to navigate, how to get the information, and some of the basic capabilities. The second course is goes a lot deeper, and it talks about how to create maps, how to create the layers, how to create maps, how to bring in information from a spreadsheet, how to geocode it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a much longer class, but it's there. So there's 2 classes that you can get on via EDGE. There are a couple of Yammer groups. Well, I'm sorry, there's one Yammer group. If you need support, peer support, that's RCView Mapping. We have experts in RCView who inhabit the Yammer group, so nice way of getting support. I've just shown you 2 web apps, and if you remember that search feature, just type in DR00, DRO space 00-19, and you'll go right to the web app, or something that's close. You can, or you can take this path, or if you type in our regional operations summary, you just type in Southern California Region Operations Summary in that search button, and you'll get to the website, web map that we use on an everyday basis here in Southern California. Okay, and you can contact your regional volunteer champion, and you can ask myself who that is. So every region we have, almost every region, we have a champion that you can refer to for some local support and mentoring. This is just a quick preview of, if you're interested, of another class that's being taught on the 28th. Actually, it's not placed in the future. It is in the future. I mean, it is already scheduled for the 28th, I think at 2 p.m. We'll cover in more detail how RCView is used for decision making. I'll talk about there's 4 different styles of decision making, and there's 3 different levels of decision making, and I'll kind of discuss how that is brought into view, and how that is how that is consistent with RCView and what it's trying to do. And I will also give you a chance to do some hands-on exercises based on some scenarios, and that will be on the 28th. So I think it's already on the calendar. Kirsten, maybe you can provide a little more information about that.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the chat for people to sign up, because it's during the day, and our daytime activities, we have another opportunity for people to sign up in.
Okay, with that, I'm going to in my presentation, there's a few more minutes, about 10 minutes, that are open for Q&A. So
some of the questions right now coming in, Cliff. First one's from Carolyn. She asks, what exact is the sandbox and what is it used for?
in RC Collect?
Yes.
Okay, so the sandbox is used, there's a regional sandbox, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the current, I know they've done some changes, but it is to play with. It is typically it is part of a class, an RC Collect class, and they encourage everybody to download RC Collect to their smartphones and go out and make sure you download the survey, the Sandbox survey, because goodness knows you don't want to start putting in major or destroyed assessments around your neighborhood in the live layer, because that would probably raise some eyebrows. So the Sandbox is for you to play in and not cause alarm at the national level. Does that answer your question?
I believe so. And the other thing I'm going to say is in the next week's classes also, we're going to be offering an RC View exercise for RC Collect. So we're going to run the RC Collect exercise, and you can sign up there. We'll walk people through how RC Collect works, and we'll give everyone a homework assignment to go and explore the sandbox, and then we'll work with each individual with their points and work from there. So we're excited about that also. So I'm going to post right now into the box where you can sign up and get more information on that. There is a passcode on the event, so I just remind you, you need to type in Pacific when you have that pop up.
Oh, okay. Are you teaching that one?
I am.
Ah, good. Good.
And then the other question is getting to know RC View the same as RC View Basics on Edge?
Getting to know would be the first one I would look at, and then the other one is base. I think you should. I think we're deprecating some of the older classes, so I would just those two that I've listed in the PowerPoint are the ones that you should use. So again, I'll upload the PowerPoint to the event files for this event. I'm sorry, for this meeting, I'll upload the files as soon as I'm done here. I should have done that beforehand. I'm sorry.
You're good. Another question asks the question, the survey you were speaking of is Survey 123. It used to be called Survey 123, but it was rebranded RC Collect after actually the Baton Rouge floods in 2016.
I was there.
And I got to work on that on the initial first action. He ran a situation unit with a whole bunch of volunteers, EBVs, that knew how to use a mouse. And they did polygons and looking, and I was on the disaster assessment team, assigning teams to go out in the field and check the assessments. So that has really evolved in the past 4 years.
Exactly. Is first time we actually were using satellite imagery to do damage assessment, because it was such a huge area that it was nearly impossible for at that point in time they wanted to have pretty quick relief. So there's no way we could blanket the state with a lot of DA folks. So they turned to satellite imagery. Yeah,
I think we had to do 60,000 homes in 7 days, if I remember right.
Yeah, that was why we had so many, but it worked out actually pretty well to use EVBs for that, because they all went home. They had better internet, faster internet than we had in the headquarters in Baton Rouge. And they worked, it was very productive. We also had people doing the surveys out in the field as well. They were kind of verifying, on the ground truthing some of the polygoning we were doing.
Yeah. Any other questions? Those are what I see in the chat right now.
Yeah, I guess not.
I guess not. That's great. Thank you so much, Cliff, for helping us out tonight and giving us a great overview of RC View. And I would just really encourage everyone to get into it and start clicking around. You can't hurt it. Like literally, if you go into the regular locations, you can just go and click on the RC View DROs and just look at the information and see what you can learn. And I always think it's a great place to go if you're going to deploy to see what's going on before you get there. You can start doing the research ahead of time. And you can also use it with your supervisor, a manager, an AD. You can use it to help get your team ready. So we just really encourage you to use it.
Okay, very good. And I'm uploading the presentation right now to the files section of this meeting event. So Anyway, thank you all for your attention, and hopefully I'll see or talk to you, some of you folks, on the 28th. Okay.